Question number 14. What is the difference between a product owner and the product manager? The product owner and the product manager are roles that are defined within an organization, and often they have a slightly different responsibility or different seniority in the full scope. However, from a competency point of view, both these roles are in product management. So some of the activities, they would do discovery, they would do ideation for new solutions, planning, execution, measuring the value delivered, the outcomes delivered to the customers, and so forth. So from a competency point of view, both the product owner and the product manager don't have much difference. However, they often differ in scope. In fact, the product manager typically works at a higher level in organization, as is typically considered a broader role. So, for example, the product manager may manage bigger product backlog items, for example, an epics backlog or a features backlog, whereas the product owner manages a backlog of a smaller scope, typically with user stories. The product manager typically responsible for a few different areas of responsibility. The first one is to understand the customers and the market. This includes activities such as doing competitor analysis, doing customer discovery, interviews, maybe even financial projections or calculating a budget or an ROI for a product, and also understanding how the overall vision for our product fits within the company's strategy. The product manager also drives product execution, and so he or she may do activities such as articulating the product vision, creating and updating a roadmap, defining a release plan, prioritizing the product backlog, at least with high-level epics and features, for example, and then working with the development team or with the product owner to then put everything in execution. And then finally, the third area of responsibility for product managers is to measure the outcomes. The outcomes that we are delivering with our product to the customers. In fact, they should be able to answer the question, are we delivering outcomes? And if so, which outcomes are we delivering? And the responsibility of the product manager is to measure the outcomes incrementally, continuously, so that we don't wait until the end of the product to know whether the product works. We have validated it along the way, and we keep building the right things. On the other end, the product owner is typically a role on a Scrum team. This is the person that manages the product backlog for the Scrum team, manages the priorities, decides which work items from the product backlog get worked on in the sprint, or which maybe need to wait or delayed based on priorities. The product owner also has a set of responsibilities. For example, communicating the product vision and the product goal to the team, so everybody can be on the same page. Prioritizing, refining, and ordering the product backlog, so that the product backlog gets refined and at least a part of that becomes ready for the developers to do the work in a sprint. And then finally, tracking progress toward the release of the product, so that we establish a plan and we know whether we are tracking toward that plan, or maybe there is some variability and we need to adjust the plan. And then finally decide when the work is done, enough work is done, that we can release it to the end users. Now, these two roles, the product manager and product owner, sometimes intersect. We may call somebody a product manager. For example, there are organizations where everybody in a product management job is a product manager, or maybe is a senior product manager or a principal product manager. Some of these people may have a product owner role within a Scrum team because they are working with a Scrum team. So one thing is the title, product manager. The other thing is the role that they are having within the Scrum team. For scaled agile, for example, if you're using SAFe, scaled agile for the enterprise, the product owner and the product manager are clearly defined in SAFe. The product owner is that person that works with the Scrum team to drive the execution of the product. The product manager, conversely, is that role that works at the program level, manages a product backlog of features, and then breaks down this work into stories that feed the individual team's team backlog so the product owners can then execute the work. In Scrum at Scale, a different scaling framework, the product owners work with the agile teams, with the Scrum teams, and then there is a level up that is covered by the chief product owner. The chief product owner manages a bigger scope and needs to align with the product owners to execute the work. Any way you look at it, or any different framework you may be using to scale, it's absolutely important that the product owner and the product manager align and collaborate. Because if you think about it, it's going to be very difficult for a product owner working with an agile team to decide what to prioritize, what to build, what functionality, for example, to build and what functionality not to build in a product. It's going to be very difficult to make these decisions if they don't know who the customer is or what the customer problem or the customer need is that we are trying to solve. So it's absolutely important for the product owner, even in a scaled organization, to have access to the customers, being able to validate the work with them and collaborate with the product manager to make decisions together on what to build and what not to build. They work at different levels, different scope, but everyone should really embody good product management practices.